You finally sit down at your desk to study, right? You crack open your book, you've got all your highlighters ready, and suddenly, literally everything else becomes the most fascinating thing in the entire world. Your phone lights up, that completely random YouTube video in your recommended feed sounds incredibly appealing, and out of nowhere, you're craving a snack you weren't even thinking about 2 minutes ago. It's like your brain is desperately scrambling for an exit strategy.
And then, comes the existential dread. Your brain starts asking these weird, distracting questions. Hey, maybe I should just check my phone for a quick minute? Or, honestly, I probably need to clean my entire room first. Or, my personal favorite, the ultimate question, do I even actually need this degree? Before you even realize what's happening, you've been sitting there for 2 hours, and almost zero actual learning has happened. It's the ultimate fake studying loop. Listen, if this feels a little too close to home right now, I want to reassure you, you are absolutely not lazy. You're just using the wrong system.
So, let's get into it. Pillar number 1, beating your brain's resistance.
There's actually some really fascinating psychology behind exactly why we procrastinate like this. Basically, your brain fundamentally loves comfort. So if you sit down and tell yourself, okay, I need to study for 3 grueling hours, your brain instantly looks for an escape hatch. Phone, food, literally anything else. This is driven by something called Parkinson's law, which states that work naturally expands to fill the time you give it. Think about it. By giving yourself this massive, open-ended block of time, you are practically rolling out the red carpet for distractions. So how do we outsmart Parkinson's law? We do it with the 20-minute rule. Instead of agonizing over some massive 3-hour marathon, you simply tell yourself, look, I'm just going to study for 20 minutes. That's it, just 20 minutes. It feels super manageable, right? It feels easy. By lowering the stakes, your brain completely drops its resistance. And the real magic here is that once you trick your brain into just starting, which let's be honest is always the hardest part, you usually just keep right on going.
Now, once you've used those 20 minutes to get the ball rolling, you graduate to the 30-minute timer trick. Have you ever noticed how ridiculously focused you become right before a major deadline, like an hour before a paper is due? That's because urgency creates focus. So try setting a 30-minute timer and treat that block of time like an absolute emergency. No phone, zero distractions, just pure focus. When the timer finally rings, you take a guaranteed 5-minute break to stretch, grab some water, or check your messages. Your brain is totally fine staying focused because it knows for a fact that a break is just around the corner.
Moving on to pillar number 2, understanding over mindless memorizing.
Okay, so once we've hacked our focus and beaten that initial resistance, we have to talk about how we're actually processing the information. Because there is a massive mistake out there that completely destroys most students' results, and that's reading the exact same notes again and again and again. It feels incredibly productive, I know, but it is a total illusion. Passive rereading really just means your brain is recognizing words on a page. It isn't actually storing them. We need to contrast that with active recall, which is essentially a heavy lifting workout for your memory.
So the absolute crucial takeaway here is applying active recall. Instead of just staring at your notes, close the book. Ask yourself questions. Try to remember the key ideas entirely from scratch, or write them down without looking at your reference material. You can absolutely use flashcards, but don't just flip through them passively. Truly test yourself before you check the answer. You know that really uncomfortable, kind of frustrating struggle you feel when you're trying hard to remember something? Believe it or not, that exact friction is the biological mechanism that physically strengthens your memory.
And that brings us to how to learn like a true genius. You might actually recognize this famous idea. It's often attributed to Einstein. If you can't explain something simply, you don't truly understand it. This quote is honestly the perfect foundation for what we call the Feynman technique. See, instead of just cramming information into your head to regurgitate it on a test later, your goal should be to teach it.
Let's break down the exact steps of this technique, because it's a real game changer. Step 1, pretend you're explaining your topic to a 5-year-old child. Use simple, everyday words. Absolutely no complicated academic jargon allowed. As you do this, you will inevitably hit a wall. Step 2 is to notice exactly where you get stuck. That little point of friction, that is the exact part you don't actually understand yet. And then step 3, go right back to your source material, relearn that specific part, and simplify it all over again. Going through this process takes you from fragile, temporary memorization straight into deep, lasting understanding.
All right, let's jump into pillar number 3, the 80-20 efficiency rule.
So now we're entering the strategy phase of learning. And there's a pretty hard truth that a lot of students just don't realize. Not everything you study matters equally. Seriously, the 80-20 rule dictates that about 80% of your exam results are going to come from just 20% of the core material. Certain concepts and topics are going to appear over and over again, while others are just, lower impact details that almost never show up on the test. You've got to stop burning yourself out trying to master every tiny, insignificant detail.
Okay, but you're probably wondering, how do you actually find that magical 20%? Well, here is the trick. Take a practice test before you even start studying. I know, it sounds completely backward, but is incredibly powerful. Taking that test on day one instantly reveals the hidden patterns. It shows you exactly what the most important topics are, what the professor repeats, and specifically where your own personal knowledge gaps are. It literally acts like a compass, directing your energy precisely where it needs to go.
Which leads us to pillar number 4, free ultimate brain upgrades. We've covered the mental tricks and the strategic pillars, but frankly, none of it matters without the biological pillar of rapid learning. Get ready for a crucial truth bomb. Your brain doesn't actually store information while you're studying. It stores information while you are sleeping. Yeah, you heard that right. During sleep, your brain is actively organizing everything you learned that day, physically moving the data from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. Which means pulling an all-nighter before a big exam is objectively one of the absolute worst things you can possibly do. Sure, you might rack up more hours of staring blankly at a textbook, but you are literally going to remember significantly less.
If you want to make remembering feel almost automatic, you absolutely need to use these free brain upgrades. First off, you gotta aim for 7 to 8 hours of high-quality sleep. It is non-negotiable for retention, period. Second, leverage the power of movement. Even something as simple as taking a quick 10-minute walk acts as a hidden biological boost, seriously improving both your memory and your focus. I like to think of sleep and physical movement as the necessary hardware upgrades you have to install to properly run your new learning software.
Section 5, your rapid learning system. Let's pull it all together.
All right, here is your ultimate quick study cheat sheet. First, start by committing to just 20 short minutes to trick your brain out of its natural resistance. Make sure you're getting deep understanding by teaching those concepts like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Ditch the passive rereading completely and switch to active recall. Protect your valuable focus by using 30-minute emergency timers. Apply that 80-20 rule by taking a practice test on day 1 to find the high-impact material. And finally, protect your brain's ability to actually store all this data with proper sleep and regular exercise. If you do this consistently, you aren't just studying harder anymore, you are finally studying smarter.
So, I want to leave you with a final thought and a question. Which of these 6 science-backed hacks are you going to use to stop fake studying today? Because listen, knowledge is only power if you actually apply it. So just pick one of these pillars, try it out during your very next study session, and just watch how it completely transforms your learning habits.